Approve the minutes.
And I will second. That's Todd.
Okay. Show of hand. All in favor, raise your hands.
Sorry, no.
Do we need to do a roll call? Yeah, we need to do a roll call.
Yeah,
Roll
go
call.
ahead and do that.
Thank
I
you.
had a cat jumping through my screen here. Excuse me.
Yeah,
Balancing on. Member Abbott,
Yes.
Member Amendries,
Yes.
Member Beal,
yes.
Member Frank,
Yes.
Member Kent,
Yes.
Chair Martin,
Yes.
and Member Price.
Yes.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is public comment for persons desiring to address the commission on an item that is not on the agenda. Please note that each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. The Brown Act limits the commission the ability to take and or discuss items that are not on the agenda. Therefore, such items are normally referred to staff for comment or to a future agenda. Staff, do we have any, can you let people in?
We do have one raised hand. City Clerk, for some reason, I'm not able to allow them to talk. Actually, we have two. So are you able to bring the first?
Hi, good evening, everybody. This is Jeremiah. Hope everybody had a good day today. So my public comment tonight for this, you know, a lot of things going on with our open space, recreation, you know, open space is a big deal, and potentially we're going to be losing some open space over behind the Giltrack Farm in Albany, behind Sprouts. And that's very important. The dirt, the soil is very fertile. It grows a lot of food. That's where all your food comes from that you eat, that you shop at Sprouts, you shop at Whole Foods, Trader Joe's. You know, when you buy produce, it comes from a garden, it comes from the earth. And we have a limited space in Albany. And there's more and more buildings going up. It's becoming more of a city. Albany used to be farmland. And now there's less and less open space. It's really sad. Sad to see trees cut down. It's sad to see birds. I've actually seen cranes. I should have took a picture. Beautiful cranes and geese and turkeys. That whole area by the creek behind Giltrack Farm is a protected space. It's a nature area. It should be a wildlife preserve. You know, maybe we could push this committee to suggest the city council to protect our open space. Open space needs to be protected. You know, we could even get it organic certified. Wouldn't that be nice? So why don't we reach out to getting our open spaces certified organic? That sure would be something, an organic open space. You know, another question is, if someone has some personal property, let's say a lot in Albany, and it's a vacant lot, is that considered open space? Maybe not because it's private, right? But it still is open space. One last thing I want to mention is Key Route Boulevard between Solano to our city limits north. We have some open space on Key Route, the median, the grass median with the trees. I say we utilize that somehow. Maybe plant some more trees or some gardens. Also, regarding Albany Hill, when Public Works planted 50 native trees, I wish this committee was in charge for reaching out to the Ohlone Lahesian tribe to make sure the native plants that we plant are coincide with the natives of the land. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Staff, can you let the next person in?
Yes. Am I unmuted? This is Susan Schwartz.
We can hear you. Thank you.
Thanks. I'm sorry to do this on my cell phone. My laptop refused to open this, so Sorry. I'm Susan Schwartz. I'm the head of Friends of Five Creeks for about 20 years. We have been working to revitalize the neglected natural areas on both edges of Albany, Cerrito and Codornices Creeks. Cerrito Creek is now in pretty good shape. Both Albany and El Cerrito are really taking responsibility. Things are getting pretty stable. For the past few years, we focused on Codornices, and I just am giving you a pretty positive update. We have completed planting about 1,000 plants, native plants in areas where, very large areas, more than 1,000 feet of creek, where we removed the bindweed that had been allowed to take over. We are set with what we think will be a workable backup water system if we get the expected drought. Things are less stable these days because of climate change. We will be facing for several years, we know from experience, waves of invasives. Luckily, even though we can't have big work parties, we're getting unexpected numbers of adult interns who just want to work. They work as individuals or in very small groups. And so far, this has kept up. We have some excellent young adult interns who we're helping to get environmental jobs. But the most exciting thing is our 6 Albany High School environmental AP science interns who are working, this is just beginning, on really real world cutting edge things, interpretive signs about the ethnobotanical uses of the native plants, and most excitingly, remote DNA detecting what lives in creeks by using sediment and water samples. This is like science fiction to me, but potentially it is a much less invasive way. And it's an excellent experience for these students. What I'd like you to think about is the potential uses of these natural areas, as you've seen on the bulb, probably one of the most used parks during COVID anywhere in the Bay Area. That's the exciting things that can go on Codornices in terms of involvement, and that you really, I feel, will be in future working to really integrate this into things like your work plan, your maintenance, your capital budgets, that you will deal with tonight, but that I've been assured are not going to deal with those topics. So I'm going to sign off. Thank you so much. See you next month.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no more raised hands, let's go to the, unless staff has anything to respond to the public comment, we can move on to item 4, announcements, staff and committee member announcements, reports and updates of status of previous agenda items.
Staff doesn't have any announcements tonight.
Okay, I'll use the moment to welcome our 2 new commissioners, Angela Aramendaris and Julia Price. Welcome. The public may not realize a little detail of the commission, that there are 5 commissioners selected by individual city council members and 2 that are selected by the school district. And the school district recently made its decisions, and we welcome our 2 new members. Okay, so item number, do commissioners have any other announcements?
Yeah, this is Brian. I just want to mention 3 semi-holidays the next week. Tomorrow night, or tonight actually, is Chinese New Year night. We're going into the year of the ox. Valentine's Day is Sunday, and then Monday is President's Day. So don't go to work unless you have to.
Any others? Okay, seeing none. The next agenda item is presentations. 5.1, Public Works presentations. Presentation will present updates on maintenance activities and current city projects pertaining to parks, recreation, and open space. for information only, which means we're not deciding on anything. We're going to take this information in and use it to help us primarily for anything, but certainly for the work plan, because we're trying to look at the work plan and what's been done, what hasn't been done, and what do we want to continue with. And so hopefully this will inform some of that as we go forward. Staff, if you could take it away.
I'll go first. I'll introduce Razu Ingen, who's our facilities manager at the Public Works. So we're glad to have you here. And he has a presentation he's prepared, and we'll share his screen. So with that, I'll let you take it away, Razu.
Okay. Let me know if you can't hear me. I haven't tried this presentation system here
I
before.
hear you fine.
Okay. And sharing. All right. Are you seeing my presentation or the, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's good.
All right. So, oops. All right. So introducing myself, my name is Razu. I'm the facilities and maintenance manager here at the City of Albany. I've been here for about almost 4 years, just shy. Started out as an engineer and then moved into the facility side. So this is something still kind of getting to know a lot of the parts of the job and quite a bit to learn. It's a pretty broad scope, and going to get into a little bit of what that is. Anyway, this is going to be the first of what will be semi-annual updates from Public Works. This is something that was done in the past. We had updates from Public Works to the Commission, and we hope to start that again now. Today we'll be doing an overview of the park's maintenance activities. Kind of starting out, big Public Works, you all may not know, Public Works does quite a lot of things. We do maintenance of city buildings and parks, which includes heating, lighting, ventilation, structural, all the furnishings within the buildings. We maintain all of that. We do capital improvements, CIP, urban forestry and open space projects, engineering basic infrastructure such as roads, sidewalks, the sewers, storm drains, and street lighting. And then agency coordination, which is actually quite a kind of an invisible part of what we do, but it does take a lot of time. We end up doing a lot of coordinating with utilities, with the public utilities such as PG&E and East Bay Mud, doing reports for grants, coordinating with other regional local and regional agencies and state agencies, as well as a lot of regulatory reporting that we do. That's kind of the Public Works as in a whole, but specifically for us, for this presentation, we're talking more about the maintenance side of things. Oops. Our maintenance crew, consider them a Jack and Jill of all trades. Normally we fully staffed at 6. Currently with attrition and retirements, we're down to 4, but happy to say that we're hiring right now. We have a couple, those 2 open positions are posted. We were able to open that up with kind of the shutdown and COVID. We had a bit of a hiring freeze, so that kind of limited some of our activities, but now we're hoping to get back up to that full staffing. Our crew works a regular Monday through Friday work week, but then we also have 24-hour standby response. In addition to the crew, we do use contractors. There's a lot of things that need to get taken care of that are specialty or dangerous. Confined space is a pretty good example. We do maintain the sewers and storm drains, but we don't have the capacity to keep staff trained and equipment to go into, say, a confined space area. And so that might be something we would contract out. going forward, just with state regulations and kind of the need to keep our staff safe and healthy, we're going to probably be continuing to look at using contractors more and more, and maintain that same level of staffing, but providing better service by also including more contracts. Big picture for what we do, the goal is to be proactive. We prioritize planned work, so that would be preventative maintenance and things like that. That's where we look at buildings and parks and try to take care of things before they become a problem. So we correct these minor issues before they become problems. But at the same time, we do have to be responsive. So when we get complaints from the public, we want to hear about them, but we'll work them into our normal work process, our normal work plan, because otherwise it would keep us from getting to the longer term stuff. This should not be news to any of the commissioners, but there's a number of parks that include Peggy Thompson, Jules Terrace, Ocean View, Memorial Park and the Dog Park, Dartmouth Tot Lot, Albany Bulb and Waterfront, the Albany Hill and Creekside, the Ohlone Greenway, Key Route, which is considered that kind of a linear park as well, and then the creeks. And our maintenance crew does touch all of those at some point or another. To give you an example of some of the work that we do, some of our daily, weekly maintenance work, we pick up litter and blow off the pathways, mow and weed, irrigation repairs, clean the bathrooms and restock supplies at the park structures. So the janitorial generally is done, for instance, by a contractor, but then during the day, if something needs to get touched up or restocked, our crew is often there checking on these bathrooms, painting over graffiti, collecting the trash, recyclables, and composting the waste. In terms of some other maintenance work, these are kind of range from smaller term projects to longer term projects. Preventive maintenance of park amenities such as drinking fountains, tables and benches, street furniture, the tennis court nets and the windscreens, plumbing repairs, maintenance of the ball field, tree planting and trimming. For the most part, that's done again by our urban forester, but we work very closely with him and then also with his contractors as well. Open space management, vegetation management for both for access and for fire control. We coordinate with the fire department on that. Landscaping, not just at the parks, but also around all the city buildings, and then lighting at the parks. To give you some examples of the contracts we manage, janitorial services, the urban forester does a regular survey of trees within the parks. That's something that's relatively new. We're doing a tree survey of trees to determine health and what other, what kind of maintenance is needed there. We contract out some of the maintenance on the lighting for lighting repairs. That's another one where it often, like the lighting at the tennis courts is very, very difficult to access. So you need specialized equipment. And that's something that we contract out as a result. Garbage collection, we have a franchise with Waste Management, and we spend quite a bit of time coordinating with them on garbage collection. Roof and gutter repairs, again, this is another good example of we could do some of the smaller things, but a larger project, we'd have to contract that out. Same thing with landscaping. Illegal dumping is something that Waste Management will pick up, but that's something that we spend quite a bit of time coordinating. I don't think a day goes by where we don't have some illegal dumping reported somewhere in the city. It's a very difficult problem to address proactively, and that's something that we try to pick it up so it doesn't become a dumping hotspot. One of the other things is encampments. So with the housing problems in the Bay Area, we've seen a lot of encampments around the city, and this is something that where our staff just simply doesn't have the training to be social workers, and in addition to cleaning up. So we have a contract with Berkeley Food and Housing Program, and that's something that our staff will coordinate with the Office of Neighborhood Services, as well as PD, to make contact with the homeless folks. And then for the cleanup, because of the nature of that cleanup, we often will contract that out to a contractor that's specialized in those cleanups. And then cyclic safety inspections on play equipment. This is something that comes up maybe once every 2 years or so. We have one that's going to start here in a little bit, and we expect to have a number of, ranging from small minor repairs that we can do in-house to other things that we may have to contract out to get to our play equipment in good shape. There's a few more pictures. And then finally, I'd like to end with how to report issues, because this seems to be something that folks always want to know about. Best way to do it is to go to the website albanyca.org and go to the service request button. It's a pretty big button right down there at the bottom of the web page, and you can see it pretty well. We want to acknowledge that putting a service request can be a little bit of a frustrating process because we don't have a good system right now for a closed loop feedback. Often what happens is someone will put in a service request and we'll acknowledge it and close it. That doesn't necessarily mean that we've completed the repair, just that we have it lined up, queued up in our work plan. If we try to do it with more, so that it gets closed when it's done, it might stay open for longer than it needs to be. We don't have a good system there. We're working towards something a little bit better because we acknowledge that can be a little bit frustrating, and we want to provide that good feedback to folks. And that does it. I don't know if open it up for questions.
Yeah, so the way my understanding is how we run things is, I'm new as the chair, is first commissioners have an opportunity to ask questions of the presenter, and then we'll go to public comment, and staff can help us out with that, and then we'll come back to the commission to discuss. There's nothing to vote on here. The agenda clearly says this is for information only, but we may discuss anything about it, including suggesting additional future agenda items, based on what we've just heard, or et cetera. So start with any commissioner questions.
Razu, if I could ask you to unshare, maybe then we can see everyone on the same screen. Thanks.
Let me see. Oh. Uh-oh. Nope. How do I get?
Okay, we can keep going as you're figuring that
It's
out.
usually at the top of the screen. They'll say
Yep, I
something.
got it out. Thank you. It was hidden behind my camera, that's why.
Any questions, Commissioner Kent?
The illegal dumping in the encampments, are they hand in hand, or is illegal dumping something different, like somebody pulling up with a van or a truck and throwing stuff out? Or is the dumping kind of associated with encampments?
That's a good point. The encampments are relatively rare in Albany, fortunately. I think we've done a very good job of doing that good outreach to the homeless folks and getting them to temporary and supportive housing. The illegal dumping, like you said, is in a lot of cases, it is somebody pulling up with a van. It is folks from, moving out and putting their old furniture on the curb, not realizing that they should be calling for a bulky pickup. It's people leaving, bags of trash after they've had a picnic.
So it's not like one dead end street where everybody tends to just throw stuff. It's not that sort of issue. It's random all over the.
We do have, I would say, a couple of hotspots, but nothing to the extent that other municipalities in the Bay Area have. We participate in the county has a illegal dumping task force, and we participate in that. And then there's a statewide conference we're going to participate in as well, which kind of gives us an idea of some best practices. The things that we deal with are peanuts compared to some of the other municipalities.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Beal and then Commissioner Abbott.
Yeah, I wanted to expand on the last topic about the illegal dumping in a specific area. That I've noticed on my street, it would be a particular concern to this commission. What I see is, and hopefully we're all familiar with the street tree program. What I'm seeing is a lot of mattresses being dumped, and I'm seeing them being leaned against the street trees that our tax money paid for. So, and I'm concerned, I've seen some of them, they're so long that it looks like it's pushing the tree over. So I guess maybe, I don't know if this is really a question or a comment, but what can be done, I guess, in coordination with enforcement, or how does that work? I mean, does the Public Works go and remove the item, and then somehow is this reported to the Albany police so that somehow we can get something done about this? How does that work?
You touched on kind of one of the very difficult things about the illegal dumping is the enforcement part is very, very hard to put together. It takes a lot of coordination between the police department, the DA's office, because it's not just the police that have to arrest them. They have to present something that they can show to the DA that they can then prosecute. It's tough. The Oakland had a pilot program at one of these dumping hotspots, but they were seeing tons and tons of dumping there every single day. So it was an opportunity for them to deploy cameras and have police come by and do regular patrols, and they had a couple lawyers and paralegals and so on from the DA's office that were all involved in that. That's not the kind of resources that we can deploy as a small city. But we are, like I said, we are participating in these discussions at the regional level. And I think the point about the mattresses, there is a mattress recycling program, and it's just it's not really set up with the right incentives, where it costs you money to haul your mattress away, but they're looking towards something where you can get a rebate basically for bringing the mattress in. Programs like that, I think, can have an effect, but it's going to take a while to get to that public education point where we don't see that being a constant problem for us.
Okay, Commissioner Abbott.
So I would just say a couple things. First off, on the Blue Glove crew, we do run across, sofas and mattresses and car fenders and stuff. Every time we go, we see something like that. And if it's particularly bad, we'll call Public Works, and usually it's taken care of. Probably I'm not sure by who, Public Works or Waste Management, but they'll pick it up. And probably a mattress laying against a tree is an opportunity to use that service request button on the website, and at least alert the city about it, and then they'll take care of it. But the question I had is I'm just curious. You guys do so much, and our focus is the parks. What percentage of your effort, of your time, and person hours, go into maintaining the parks? Would you say? Do you have any idea on that?
Offhand, I don't have an idea on that, but that is something I think we mentioned a little earlier. What are we going to present on regularly? This is something we want to get to be more data driven, and so I'm not going to say next time we'll have a bunch of data for you, but that is a longer term goal to be able to track our what kind of effort we're putting into parks versus streets versus picking up illegal dumping and so on.
Great. I would just reiterate that we've been very impressed by how responsive Public Works has been. And when we've identified something on the street, sometimes it's something out of place, sometimes it's dumping, and it's usually taken care of pretty quickly. So we very much appreciate that.
Thanks.
Okay, other commissioner questions? Okay, I had a few. One was for the tree survey. Is that mostly John or someone driving around looking for signs of distress or disease, or is that like a tree census, taking data on species and size and things like that?
I would refer that to John to give you a little bit more details on that. I think he would have a lot of, but my understanding is it's a little bit more technical than just driving around. There is like an assessment of the health of the tree that is done. There's like a needle that probes into there in certain cases that you can use to assess how healthy the tree is and whether it's going to be last 5 or 10 years, and then we can plan for the replacing that tree if it's needed.
So you think he's doing that for every tree or just some trees?
My understanding is there was some sort of evaluation of all the trees in the parks, and then we're going to eventually go towards doing that more widespread. I don't necessarily know if it'll be citywide.
And mostly for health, not just to record the species and
we did do it. There was a tree census, and we have some, putting this into to be more data driven. We're trying to get it into a GIS, a graphical interface that we can then monitor. Hey, what kind of trees are out there? What are the needs? What are the ages and health conditions of them?
Okay, I think that was it for me. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, let's go to the attendees, and staff, if you could let the first speaker.
Yeah, good evening. About the illegal dumping, do you guys know why people dump illegally? Have you ever asked yourself that? I'll tell you the reason. Has anybody been to the dumps lately? The price is so expensive. $40, $50, $60, $80. I mean, how much is it to cost a mattress? Last time I went, it was $10. It doesn't matter if it's a twin size or a California king. It's still $10, no matter what size your mattress, even though. So a couple suggestions. Maybe we could change a policy with the state of California to when it's kind of like CRV and recycling. You know how you pay 5 cents or 10 cents per bottle of CRV? You pay it up front. How about we petition the state of California City Council to reach out to where when people buy a mattress, you pay the extra $10 up front when you buy a mattress. And that money up front can go toward, when you're done with your mattress, since you've already paid, go turn it in for free. So the last thing someone wants to do is get rid of old mattress and still pay money on it. So maybe we could suggest like a mattress redemption value. Maybe when you buy a mattress, you pay $20 and then you go to the dumps and then they'll give you 10 back. Some sort of incentive, right? There's got to be a solution for that. Nobody wants to go pay $50 out of the dumps. The prices are too high. So that's why people are dumping illegally, right? I mean, I can't see any other reason to dump illegally. It's because the dump fee is too expensive. Plus, that long line. I mean, I don't know if you guys been going to the dumps, but that line is long. So it's a long line. and it's the dump fee. So why would anybody go pay money to dump garbage if you could just dump it illegally? So maybe we could put some dumpsters around Albany and people could just put it in the dumpster instead of on the street, because the wind blows and the trash spreads all over the place, blows in the creeks. City of Albany should offer one dumpster in the city, open to the public. Come dump your stuff legally. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And does staff have any comment for that?
I believe there is some movement towards programs like that. I'm not fully informed on it, but it is there's some tricky incentives that get built in there. It's way above my level of policy understanding. As you know, there is currently a similar type of deposit that you put down for tires, and yet tires, you pay the recycling fee of the tire when you purchase the tire up front, and yet you still have a lot of dumping of tires. So there is some issues there with how they've got it set up. But that is something that again, we are partnering with the Alameda County and other regional folks who are looking at exactly those kind of programs.
Commissioner Frank?
Yeah, I just want to address the commenters' questions because I work in recycling with cities, and it's a good thought about this redemption value. And there's the California Mattress Recycling Council that's looking at that. So I think they're going to be running some experiments with some cities to see if they can just provide the free service of mattress recycling. I would say that I'd caution against having any kind of big dumpster. And I'm sure, I can imagine Razoo is not necessarily pro that approach, because we found, in other cities where they've done anything like a big hole, that it just attracts people from outside to come and dump. It actually kind of perpetuates the problem, even though we really appreciate the ideas. So keep on bringing your ideas, but that I just know from my experience with clients in other cities that's a particular sort of problem or attraction of more illegal dumping. So.
Okay. Commissioner Beal?
Yeah, I guess two things about this. From hearing all this, it seems to me, in the case of mattresses, it's probably not just the cost, it's the fact that it's just such a hassle. But it's so easy to just, hey, I got this mattress, why don't I just take it outside and lean it against something? In terms of Jeremiah's idea, and I'm not an expert on this or anything, but there is some goodness in this idea, or some economy of scale, because if there were a way to make this work, if everyone just put their mattresses in one place, then the city wouldn't have to go around and collect them. But I think it would have to be somehow limited to Albany residents. And probably look at the whole thing. Probably maybe we just need to get better somehow about the system we have now, and just encourage people to report, because I didn't know before coming to this meeting that this was something we could just click on a button on the website, report it. So it seems to me it's a question of awareness. Might be about the best we could do right now.
Okay, I see we have another attendee with their hand up. Staff, could you let them in?
Hi, do you hear me?
Yeah.
Hey there. Sorry. Hi, this is Amy Smollins. Thanks for the report, Mr. Engen. I appreciate it. I've reported a bunch of hazards, light outages and potholes on that service request page. And I agree, it is definitely efficient. It's the most efficient way of reporting that the city's ever had. But I also agree that it's really frustrating not to be able to track your report and to have it say closed just because someone's read it and acknowledged it, and it can still take a year. And I think that a pending status would really help. And that's what the C-Click Fix app has. If you're familiar with that, it's used all over the Bay Area. And when your issue is taken care of, when the person who files it received something, who filed the service request receives a close notice. That way you don't have to keep checking. You'll know when things are done. And you can even make a little comment and say, thank you for fixing that. So a pending status would really help the efficiency of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Can staff clarify where the issue is with that button and the tracking? Is that the web service, or is that some special like back-end tracking contract that we have, or how would that get upgraded?
It's an upgrade to our work order system. I think is kind of the way that we're going to do it, and that's something that's been in the works for a little while. It's a capacity issue at this point in terms of having the staff to implement a new system and get that up and running and make sure we have everything all set, get everybody trained. We can't just flip a switch and go to a whole new system and expect that we're going to still be catching all the new problems and so on. I got an update for Amy on the lights under the BART track that I know that she reported. Those, I believe we took care of all the ones that you reported, and maybe a couple other ones just completed today. So that's some good news for you.
Okay. Seeing no other hands, now it comes back to the commission for discussion. Any thoughts on Public Works presentation? Commissioner Abbott.
So I would just say kind of a general comment, and we talk about this a lot, and I'm not really sure what the answer is, but when we're considering, adding a feature or let's say a Jewel Terrace Park, we're planning on putting in a new structure of something to replace the tree that we had to remove a few years ago. We always kind of have the question, okay, this is how much this costs, but how much is it going to cost to maintain? And I don't know. Sometimes we'll be able to have a number for that. Sometimes we won't. But I'm just kind of curious what you think about that. When a body like this goes and just creates new work for you, are you ever consulted? How is that communication happen?
That is something we're still building our capacity. Like I said, I've been here for almost 4 years, and I've seen some steady improvement in the way that we communicate internally, and all that. I started out on the engineering side, and then moving over to the maintenance side, I see a lot of the maintenance issues in a different light. And I think one of the things that we definitely try to do is when we have a project or a plan that comes up through the capital improvement side, we do look at the maintenance costs and try to incorporate that. That's something that our director, Public Works Director, Mark Hurley, is very, very aware of and wants to make sure that we incorporate that into our planning. For some of the projects that we're delivering now were planned in some cases many years ago. So it takes a while to get through that queue to the newer stuff, but that is something that we definitely try to incorporate some internal systems to better address that concern.
Thank you.
Okay. This is also a good opportunity for commissioners to request something in the next update in 6 months. I guess Commissioner Abbott asked for more data on certain things, and any other items people would want to hear in the next one as well. Commissioner Frank.
Yeah, I think the last time we received an update on the budget and where we were with a variety of different capital improvement projects. I think in particular for any of the projects that our commission has actually voted to move forward on, that would be really helpful to see where you all are and how it fits in terms of priorities within your planning process. So both, if it's even feasible to do some of those projects, and sometimes it's an internal project, sometimes it's something you have to contract out for, but any of that information is really helpful, especially so we can be more transparent with the public in terms of, you heard that we voted on this, but this is where it's at, and this is what we can say in terms the status is.
Okay. Other discussion. Commissioner Kent.
In one of the letters we received from Friends of Five Creek today, actually, it mentioned the cigarette butt issue. That seems like a simple fix that would save a lot of maintenance time, opposed to raking and picking up all those butts and the pollution. I'm not sure if that's something that has what's the process with just putting a trash can or a butt collector can somewhere? Is that, do you have discretionary funds? You just buy one and install it? It's as simple as that, or does that have to go through some long process of approval?
In some cases, it does have to go through approvals, because you want to make sure it's something that is appropriate for the location. Something like a butt collector might need to have a footing that needs to be designed and built so that you don't have something that you put out there and it immediately falls over. I think that seems like a fairly something that we would look at. I haven't looked to see what's involved with that in the site that she thought would be appropriate for it. If there's jurisdictional issues or if there's access issues there in terms of where we want to put it.
Okay.
Others. Commissioner Armendariz.
Yeah, and sorry if this is a question I should have asked earlier, but in light of Chair Warren's question about what we could expect or what we might want to know more about for the future, I'm curious about the number of requests that you get that are related to parks, rec, and open space, and the sort of general response time. Just what, if you have a sense of that.
No, and unfortunately, I don't have good data on that. That is something we want to move towards to be more data driven in that way. But I don't have stats at my fingertips right now, unfortunately.
So I think that would be a request then, maybe for the next one.
I don't want to promise that we're going to have a bunch of cool graphs and really accurate stats. That's something we want to move towards, but tracking time and resources, with our current system, it's a little difficult.
So it sounds like the current system is difficult to do that, and it's difficult to do the pending and completed kind of thing. Is that just an internal work process within the department, or is that like a software issue, or how would you describe that?
Both. There's some internal work process, and then there's some software that we've looked at and we've made a commitment to purchase, but there's some implementation that needs to happen.
Okay, so I would say I know I personally would like to hear an update on how those processes, what the progress is on refining those processes and updating the software in a way that will allow these kinds of things to be reported.
To just jump in on that, a lot of companies, every time you fill your time card out, you have to state right there what you're doing, and that gets categorized. And I'm not sure the process the city has for doing that, but that could be worked together. So you don't have two databases, your timesheet, and then you're filling in another sheet, but it's all tucked into one. But that's a big move, getting different software for timesheets, I know.
Okay. All right. So if there's no other discussion, that closes that item, and we move on to and thank you for that report. We move on to item 6, review 6.1, review of commission work plan. Commission will review and discuss current work plan and begin drafting 2021-2023 work plan. We started on this last month. Every 2 years, with new city council members coming in and often new commissioners coming in, the commission's committees reevaluate what they're supposed to be doing and what their priorities are. The city council provides some kind of top down. The public and the commissioners can request, the commission can request items with feedback, with input from the public on what the commission would like to work on. And then all that gets presented to the city council in March or April, I believe. And then the city council votes to approve or modify all these different work plans. And that's pretty much what we're stuck with for the 2 years, unless we make modifications, which we can do as we go along. We have this big master plan that is we're going to be working on. So that presents some other aspects to this. If staff could introduce the work plan topic with that in mind, that would be great.
I can kind of give a little background. I'll share my screen here and we'll go through. I attached the work plan and the update that Isabella Duke provided at the last meeting. That was great. That had kind of a status update on each of the items, so I can provide that so that the commission can go through each item. And per Chair Martin's request, I did highlight a few of the items that some ongoing projects, like the presentation that Rezu is going to present twice a year, and some of the other presentations that are ongoing, highlighted those just for the commission to see, and might want to bring those over. But as you go through the work plan, you'll likely find others that have been completed and you don't make sense to bring forward to the next work plan. There might be others that are ongoing that I haven't highlighted that we can identify, and I'll take some notes. And the idea is that at the next meeting, the March meeting, that will come back, staff will come back with hopefully a draft if we have enough information, and that this work will continue. This is February, so March, and then if April is needed as well, to work on the work plan and finalize it as well. So with that, this is kind of the commission's process, and I can pull this up and I'll share my screen, but I'll turn it back over to you, Chair Martin, for discussion.
Okay. Okay, so we have all these items to consider, and we have the master plan coming up as something that could change what we want to do and what the public wants us to do and what we want to do. So my recommendation was to just sort of consider all the pro forma things as one, like almost consent calendar. Like, let's just all these annual reports and semi-annual reports, like we just saw. We also get that from the Margot Cunningham and others, to consider approving those in one vote once we see what they are, and then I believe we have several options. Well, I mean, first, of course, we'll consider the work plan as it was. We haven't finished everything. So some things we're going to want to carry over. And do we, is there a need to say that we'll, carry this over pending the results of the Parks Master Plan process, which is supposed to finish up this fall? And maybe we can also get an update if we have if a contractor, what the timeline is for getting someone on board to begin that process, or just approve, everything that's unfinished in one. Another way to go about it is to just take a look, and is there any one thing we don't want to carry over? Are there some items people don't want to carry over? Otherwise, carry the rest over. So that would be my recommendation, rather than going. I mean, we can certainly look item by item, and we did that last month.
Can
Open
you
it
see
up
my
to-
screen? You can see the work plan? The
Yeah.
update? Okay. Here's the updates that Isabella Duke provided for the last meeting. You'll see that it does say January. I've included a few updates from the last meeting in this document too. So if you'd like to use this, just point down and I'll scroll down.
Great. And so we have one option is to just say, let's carry them all over, all the items over that are not completed, except ones that the commission decides it doesn't want to work on. Or we can go item by item and vote to move each item to the next work plan. Open up to discussion.
I just want to ask a little bit about process. Is our plan to try to come up with our new work plan tonight, or is this just kind of the beginning of the process? Kind of last time we kind of got a summary of what's been going on, and now we're kind of looking forward a little bit, but still really kind of staying with review. Is that where we are, or do you think we're going to start really just fleshing out our upcoming work plan?
Staff?
Sure, I can speak to that. It's really your process of how you would like to move forward. As you mentioned, last month was kind of an update, and this month could be going through each item and saying yay or nay on each item, and then we'll kind of, again, staff can bring a more comprehensive draft. This is really just the last work plan that you're working off of, and that's one way to do it, but if other people have suggestions, open to those as well.
And I should add, this is also, of course, an opportunity to add new items. So people that have ideas for new things they think the commission should be working on, this is the time to bring that up. I can't see everybody, but I see Commissioner Deal holding their hand up.
Yeah, just a question on what Ava just said before we decide. And that was, where are we in terms of the process? Because I know we can't just create our own work plan. It has to be approved by the city council. So is there timing around that where, like, say, do we have to decide what we want to do before a certain date so that the city, that's my question.
Yeah, what's the timeline?
For a final work plan?
Yeah.
Well, for us to decide what we want to submit to the city council, because
so April or May is typical that advisory bodies will go to council. So, if we can wrap it up at the March or April meeting, that gives staff enough time to prepare the final draft and work with the chair. Does that answer your question?
Okay.
So on that note, then I would suggest what we do tonight is we kind of go through this list, and then at the next meeting we make our final decision, and that will give adequate time to discuss matters and take public comment. Maybe I think we've only got one or two people giving public comment tonight, so it'd also be nice to have more opportunity for that.
And that does remind me, we do have one hand up, so we should go to public comment and then open it back up for actually discussion amongst the commissioners. So staff, if you could let them in.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. Two things. One is I put in a work order with Public Works months ago regarding the big bellies on Solano Avenue. I've washed and sanitized the outside of about 10, 15 big bellies. between San Pablo and maybe one up from Talbot, Stan. You know, those big bellies had so much ash and dust on them from the fires for months, ash for months on the outside. And I got in there, I scrubbed and scrubbed and scrubbed. Those things look so clean now. I think Public Works sometimes just waits for it to rain and that'll clean them. That's kind of a sad excuse to not want to do work. Now, the inside of the big bellies, I was told by
Maya, is
Public
this in
Works.
relation to the current agenda item, the work
Yeah,
plan?
yeah, the plan,
Okay,
because I want to get a regular thing on our master plan for that, our work plan, to where the big bellies are sanitized regularly, because the inside of the big bellies, they're filthy. There's mold growing, and the Public Works told me that they would clean them out, power wash them. So just please do something about the big bellies. They're disgusting. That should be on the work order, that they get sanitized once a quarter at least, power washed. They said they were going to remove the liners and bring them back to Public Works headquarters and power wash the liners on the inside. It still hasn't been done for years. I mean, the mold is terrible. I'm sorry to complain. I just want them to be clean for Albany. You know, nobody wants to clean a trash can, right? So I apologize about that. I was a little forceful on that, but I just mean it with the most respect. The second thing I would like to suggest for the work plan is to provide a space for a shower trailer. I'm really close on getting a shower trailer coming to Albany, and we're looking for a location to provide utilities, Public Works on Jacuzzi Street, possibly providing power and electricity. Are there any parks and open space and recreation that could please provide some utilities for the shower trailer to come to Albany? Hopefully it's going to be coming soon. I've got it all lined up, but we're just trying to get the location. So please, parks, recreation, open space, please provide an opportunity for showers to use utilities. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I would suggest that the first item there of the public comment was is something that should be directed to Public Works. That wouldn't really be on our work plan to oversee big belly trash cans, but they were a previous agenda item and they'll be back in 6 months. So definitely can give them that input then, but there's other ways to give input to Public Works. So I would encourage the public to reach out to Public Works or to other city staff if there's concerns about the maintenance. And then the second item is certainly something we can consider for a work or what do you call it? A work plan item. So proposal for a work plan item. So to consider adding that or not of some sort of shower facility. There's already public restrooms in public parks, and either providing public showers or, like Jeremiah was saying, he has ideas for shower systems that just need hookups. So that would be something we could consider adding to a work plan. Okay, seeing no other public comment, let us, so Commissioner Beal's suggestion, I think that sounds good to go through the items with a mind towards thinking about finalizing these at the next meeting or at the latest at the April meeting. And we have some new commissioners who weren't here the last meeting when we went over these, and there's been some updated information. So I think that sounds good to go through these relatively quickly, one by one, keeping in mind, making a note of which ones are basically completed and we can not concern ourselves with them, which ones we want to continue with. and also, of course, thinking about any brand new ones that people have ideas for.
So Brian, just before we go, I noticed a couple of commissioners have a hand up, and I just wanted to point out that you can expand the space on your screen that the thumbnails are in, and you'll be able to see everybody.
Oh,
if you're on a PC.
Yes, that just worked. Thank you. I can't see everybody. Okay, Commissioner Beal.
It's actually point of order. So I've noticed this a couple times in this meeting tonight. I'm a little bit concerned about it. My understanding is that it's supposed to go, we have the public comment, it goes back to the commission, and it may vary what order that goes in, but it should be a distinct public comment period and commission. We shouldn't be going back and forth. And it seems like we're doing that. So I'll leave it up to the staff to answer that. I just wanted to point out the concern.
And typically for an agenda item, it would be that the committee has the opportunity to ask questions. And then once the question period is over, it goes to public comment. And then once public comment is over, then it comes back for discussion for the committee.
I think I might have jumped the gun on the discussion. So your point's well taken. Yeah, thanks.
And it's okay, just as long as there's no Brown Act violation. I mean, it's the chair's discretion, as long as that's what I'm concerned about, because I saw it in the Brown Act that this could be a problem. So,
okay, thanks. All right. So, anyone else have their hand up? I don't see any. So let's take. Although I do see Commissioner Beal still has his hand up.
I'll take it down.
Okay, thank you. So, Eva, could you read us through the items?
Sure, or either way, do you want me to read, which part of this did you want me to read?
Let's see.
Is it big enough for you? Can you guys see?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, maybe I'll just sort of quickly read through to give us something to go off on here. So objectives are not priorities. Objective 1 is just enhance parks. So under that category, we have conduct analysis for future for turf, grass, field, and that one at Pierce Street Park is to be included within the upcoming Parks, Recreation, Open Space Master Plan update. So that's right there. Assure that benches are available as needed in the parks, and assessment will be included as part of the master plan update. So we've got that's already there. Review is, and then objective 2 is to enhance open space as opposed to parks. Review prioritized lists of projects on Albany Hill to include in the CIP program. Right. And it says it was completed, but my understanding is there's still little bits and pieces of that were not. Can Isabel or anyone else comment on how completed that Albany Hill trails and et cetera project, how completed that is?
I think the project that you approved is completed. The only piece that is not completed is the bridge. There's a bridge tied to this project, and it's going to take a while before that moves forward because the city has to work with El Cerrito as well. So it's an inter-jurisdiction project. So that will take a long time. My suggestion on that one is that you can leave it on your work plan if you'd like to, but when this comes up as part of the CIP, it would come to the commission for your input by Public Works staff. So you can leave it, but again, it's kind of what we talked about over the last years is that there's some projects that. And as Razu mentioned tonight, that will make their way through the CIP. We don't really have a timeline for them, but when they do come up and the funding has been identified and there's a need for input from the commission, the staff will bring those projects to you.
So whether or not they're on our actual work plan, you mean?
Exactly, yes.
And also it's unclear of the timing, so that it might not be within the next 2 years even too. But if I want to also mention too, and thank you, Isabel, for that description, is that at the very top of the work plan, there is a completed initiative. I forget the exact name of it, but so anything that you do complete within your 2-year work plan, you still get credit for. So we'll still include everything too, even if it's not in the work plan too. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, if you can scroll it up. Okay, review forest management plan for Albany Hill, including fuel load analysis. And so, identifying consultant to provide technical assistance.
So again, I think that's another one that when the consultant is found by Public Works and the project gets on the way, it will come to the commission. But I am not aware of a specific timeline for this project at this time.
Well, is this a recurring thing or is this a one-time thing?
I think it's a one-time thing as far as the plan is concerned. You know, you at some point there will be a plan and it will be reviewed. And the consultant would come to the commission to ask for input.
Okay.
Do we, so they haven't hired a consultant yet on this. And do they know what kind of focus it'll be? Is it strictly fire control or woodlot management? Or will it be?
Yeah, I don't have enough information really.
Biological concerns, yeah, the monarch butterfly issues. Okay.
Would you say this is something that needs to be on our work plan, or is this something that people would just come to us and present? Because we're not actively doing anything with this.
Right, exactly. So I think, again, this is an item that could come off of your work plan because, you know, as part of the process, the staff and the consultant will come to the commission when they're ready.
Come to us with a just RFP that they're going to go out for, or come to us with a already completed forest management plan?
No, they'll come to you when the plan is in progress of being written. So they'll come to you for input on a draft plan.
I mean, there is some value to have it in a public document that the city is working on this and it's going to be coming to the Parks and Rec, so it doesn't get just lost, you know, in the system. So maybe we do want to still have it there. So that's something to think about.
Yes, the item would be review plan when it comes to the commission. You know, review and provide input into forest management plan, fuel load analysis when it comes to the commission.
Okay.
I assume that they're going to be hiring a great professional, but there's always the outside chance that it gets a very kind of focused approach to it. And then when they come to us, it's strictly about one issue, like I mentioned, fire loading or something. And then our comment will be, well, where's all the biology studies? And then they've already hired the consultant that doesn't have the ability to do that. So is there do we know when they're hiring somebody, but we don't really know what they're looking for?
Yeah. It sounds like the commission has more questions than I can answer on this item. So I'm happy to come back at the next meeting with more detail on this item.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Next item is program and implement final measure B projects and provide final accounting for that measure. So that looks like that we finished that one. Is that okay? Next up, annually review capital improvement plan and maintenance project on creeks. So that's an annual review. Next up, review. So these are the ones that Eva highlighted, which I think we should, my proposal would be to consider them all in one thing. Review maintenance schedule and plans for enhancement through programming of Measure M funds. And so various presentations. And then next up is investigate potential for open space use of Caltrans right-of-way by inventorying existing Caltrans right-of-way, discussing opportunities with Caltrans. And then the progress says, yes, this would be part of the master plan update. Next up is identifying funding to update Parks and Recreation Master Plan. And that says would be for the master plan update, Commissioner Kent and Commissioner Beal. Commissioner Kent first.
Question on the investigate potential for open space use of Caltrans. It looks like it's Caltrans has been approached and the leasing requirements available locations determined bike park may not be feasible. Is this closed or is it potential? I mean, Caltrans seems like at first brush might push you back and try to get you off that subject, but it might be worth pursuing a little more intensely. I know Caltrans doesn't like people under freeways, but they do it on lots of occasions. So it's not like it's I don't know what happened. I'm just jumping in here because I'm new to the commission, so I don't know what took place here, but it seems like such a great opportunity. I'd hate to go away if we haven't pushed it as far as we could, the potential.
Now, if I could, I actually wanted to comment on the same item, if that's okay with you, Brian, before we. And my comment is because I'd heard that this was sounding more and more like it wasn't feasible. And my concern is that this is just too small of a goal. The goal should be to get a mountain biking facility in Albany. Getting it through Caltrans is one way, but it shouldn't be like, oh, we can't get it from Caltrans, so we're not going to do it. So unless that's somewhere else on here that I didn't see, that should be what's on our work plan, is to get a mountain biking facility.
Yeah. Well, what I would say is we had an item that was to implement a mountain bike park, and the far right hand box looks like it's commenting about that, but the one on the far left seems like it's more general about Caltrans space. Can staff comment on the box on the left, if that used to be about mountain bike or
well,
what?
I think this is how your work plan was written originally. The left box, investigate potential for open space use of Caltrans right-of-way by inventorying existing Caltrans right-of-way. So this was the item in your work plan as written in your work plan. Oops. I'm not quite sure what happened there.
I'm trying to find it on the work plan.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
But it is, Eva, everything that's on the chart is in the work plan. Yeah, so I don't think we need. And then the column on the right is the status update based on, what's been done so far. And to respond to Commissioner Beal, there is, in that box, you'll see that interest for a bike park will be included as part of the Parks, Recreation, Open Space Master Plan. And the idea behind that is that, the location under I-80 could continue to be a potential site, but there could be also review of other sites within the city that could be identified as potential sites for a bike park. So leaving it open for other sites in the city, for the exploration of other sites.
Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Abbott.
So I can fill in a little bit of kind of the institutional history on this. The bike park was initially discussed, it was kind of late in the process, but regarding the Peggy Thompson Pierce Street Park area, and in particular a small bit of area land, I guess, to the north, just to the north, that's unused. And then they came back with the idea with the Caltrans space. Caltrans hit a pretty hard no on that one. That wasn't really, that was a very pretty clear policy they had, specifically mentioning bicycles and the potential for you know, conflict with the support structures. And they didn't, there was a pretty, I think it was Mark Hurley who talked to them, and it was a pretty hard no on that one, but who knows? They weren't a hard no on necessarily any other particular uses, but that one it was pretty. And so, but then I think considering the Caltrans area as a bike park kind of made us say, hey, wait a minute, there's this area here we have something to do with, and we're kind of a land starved as far as parks are concerned town. So we see that as real opportunity. So I actually see it started off bike park and then became more general as far as the area under the freeway is concerned. But that's just kind of what I remember of the process going back a number of years.
Could you, you said Caltrans, I'm going to explore that a little bit more. Caltrans is a hard no because of the bikes. They didn't want bikes around their support facilities? Or
because they don't want bike riders smashing their heads against the support structures. They don't want the danger, the liability of the concrete and the bikes.
That seems like
that's what I remember. I'm getting a
simple thing to fix, but yeah, I mean, wrap it with a
What I would say to that is that that my understanding of how Mark Hurley was describing the conversations as someone who was on the mountain bike subcommittee is that preliminary, feelers were put out to Caltrans, and that was something they flagged was the columns, and Public Works didn't push it anymore. So to me, it's not clear that it's a hard no. And there's also a bike park in Seattle that weaves in and out of those exact same kind of columns. So there's precedent. But I do the history of it. Otherwise, I would say is appreciated there on that. And I did look, and I see that the bike park is coming up later on in the work plan. So so this one, it was just to investigate Caltrans right of way. And I'm looking forward to that in the master plan discussion as to what the consultant, comes up with, or what we can evaluate for how to use, all the open space, one way or the other. So the fact that staff has put in the last box there a bunch of things about the bike park is just that we did investigate, propose putting a bike park in the Caltrans right of way. And so that's, one instance of use of Caltrans space. Okay, next up, identify funding to update Parks and Recreation Master Plan. So I believe that's to hire the consultant, right? That's in the works. Is that what that is, Isabel?
Yes. And we will have more information for you at the next meeting on that.
Okay. Objective 3, create cultural facilities and opportunities. So item 1 is review existing public and private memorials, honors, etc. And that's included in the scope of the master plan update. That's one of the tasks the consultant's being asked to do up front. Create policies concerning private memorials and honors on public lands. So that would be a follow-up to the inventory. Okay. Investigate veterans building retrofit funding options and report findings to the council. And that's, I don't know if our commission has ever actively gone out and done research on that. Can staff tell us more if is that more of a staff thing or a commission thing or what?
Yeah, I think it's more of a staff thing. I think there was an update. There was an updated cost estimate provided to council in December 2018 at the request of council to see if it was feasible for the city to, to basically renovate the property, because the property, my understanding is that the county is ready to, give the property to the city for $1, but the renovations, which include mostly earthquake retrofitting, are quite extensive. So there's no funding for that type of renovation at this time.
Okay. Other work plan items. So we have review Memorial Park pathway lighting design and complete installation. And what does that mean incorporated in the fall 2021 update?
Yeah, and this project was included as part of the CIP, the Public Works CIP, and it was included in the fall update, and it's actually a funded project now, which will be underway fairly soon, once I think a contractor is selected. So this project is in progress and will be completed.
So what does that mean if something's in the fall update, but we're in the winter of 2021? So what? Oh,
I think there's a mistake. No, I think it meant to be fall 2020, because the Public Works went before council with a CIP update in the fall of 2020. So it should be fall 2020.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Review designs and construct Ocean View Park bocce courts. And that was something we approved, and it's unfunded. Complete analysis, and that's in principle something that would be considered as part of the master plan, is what do we want to do with that space?
Yeah.
And do we still want to do that with that space? Complete analysis of potential dog park. Oh, sorry, hand up. Commissioner.
Sorry, thank you. And I just sort of raised my hand just because you were making that point. Thanks, Chair Martin, for making that point. So I just want to get a context because, in some ways I don't feel like this work plan, there's a huge urgency for me to weigh in on the new stuff because we are doing this master plan, and I feel like there's going to be so much that we're going to cover with that process. But I do have a question. Are we, even though we did approve the bocce ball courts, would this, just a general question, would this master plan process sort of trump that earlier vote?
Well, I think it's going to be part, depending on the feedback that you provide to the consultant as part of the master plan, because the project may, and it's going to be up to you to decide whether or not this is still a viable option, if this is still something that the community wants, and hopefully we'll get some feedback based on the research that the consultant will done, and so you'll get more information and be able to make some determination based on the new information that will be provided. So it doesn't trump; it's more, more information will be gathered, and you'll be able to decide whether or not bocce stays at Ocean View or other places could be considered.
Great. And actually, now that I see it, we approved the plan. It wasn't as if we were necessarily making any vote about the priority or urging the council to fund it immediately. Okay, that's great. And I think this is, to me, I remember coming in as a new commissioner when we were going through this process, and it can be overwhelming. So I just want to say to the new commissioners that I personally am a little bit sitting back in this process because I do recognize that we have this huge master plan that will cover a lot of these priorities and sort of interests that we have. So just wanted to make that point.
Thank you. It is overwhelming.
Yeah, and Commissioner Beal?
Yeah, actually, we moved so fast. I had a point on the previous item on Objective 3, enhance or create cultural facilities and opportunities. And there's two reasons why I think this should become more important and expanded. One is, because of COVID-19, there's a need to, get people together and stuff and get them outside. But one specific thing that's really hot and heavy right now, and I'm not sure to what degree it fits in with the PROSC Commission, but there was quite an outrage at the last city council meeting about horse racing, Golden Gate Fields. And, I know that's part of there was a community input process about this, but it seems like the PROSC Commission would be a good place for the community to, bring their concerns about this, as opposed to going directly to the council. So that was, maybe the Golden Gate Fields should be on our radar somehow.
So which item are you said you had a question, something to comment about a previous item. Which previous item are you referring to?
Well, I'm on objective 3. I'm just, because the general objective is create cultural facilities and opportunities. And it just seems to be limited to 2 specific things that don't seem to have much to do with the current happenings in Albany. Not by any design of their own, just because I'm saying, that these particular items, if we're talking about cultural facilities, I'm thinking that's recreation, right? And that's culture and recreation is part of this. That somehow maybe that issue may want to come into our, I don't know if it's part of this objective or not.
The waterfront is part of our purview. I'm a little sketchy on which exact parts of the waterfront are part of our purview. And there used to be a waterfront commission, which had on its plate, I believe, the Golden Gate Fields, if it were to ever go away. And so I don't know what to say to that. Does staff have any other input on that? On like what our purview would be as far as Golden Gate Fields?
Golden Gate Fields is privately owned, so we don't have a purview over Golden Gate Fields. The city owns the bulb, and there's a right of way through, from Buchanan through the bulb, but everything else is East Bay, is owned by East Bay Regional Park District, and Golden Gate Fields is privately owned.
And Commissioner Beal, you have your hand up? Okay, all right. Commissioner Frank.
Yeah, just on that, I think I like Commissioner Beal's point about maybe not necessarily the Golden Gate Fields, because if we don't have purview, but potentially the bulb, because I know we've talked before about the bulb being an opportunity to create more recreation because of COVID. So, and we've heard from, advocates of more bulb recreation and facilities. So I would say that that's a potential work plan item that we could include, right? Is to explore additional recreational cultural opportunities at the bulb. So just putting it out there.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'd say the bulb's a good location because it's out there, the wind blows, there's lots of space, as opposed to somewhere where everyone's going to be, crammed together.
Can we get a clarification from staff what staff's interpretation of cultural facilities and opportunities means?
I can start. The objective 3 comes directly from the council's last strategic plan. And then these 3 items were listed below. And so they were directly pulled from the council's strategic plan. Beyond that, Isabel, maybe you can speak to this too, but there might be some leeway as far as if the commission has an interest in diving into this more, they could add additional items under this heading of objective 3. Is that right, Isabel?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay, so we were on other work plan items. We did, oh yeah, bocce. Oh yeah, so one question I had about the bocce is, did that ever go before I'm so fuzzy on this. Did the bocce go before the city council, and did the city council vote to approve it?
I think it was part of the CIP, update. So it's approved as part of the CIP, but it's an unfunded project.
So getting back to Commissioner Frank's question from a little bit ago, where does that leave us as far as, for items like this, where we've already approved them? It sounds like the city council also approved it. It just happens to not be funded at the moment. What say do we have in something the city council has already approved?
Well, they'll be approving the Parks Master Plan update as well. So if there are any changes to bocce, that would be included in the plan.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Complete analysis of potential dog park locations in Albany and present findings to council. Says council approved recommendation to make section B a dog park. Public Works will engage consultants for the design of dog park amenities. That kind of thing is what I'm looking forward to Public Works presenting. I should have asked for that in the last item. But I think somebody else asked them for updates on park, maybe Commissioner Frank, for park related improvements. As I recall, there was still potentially more work that could be done because there was a second part of that was to investigate alternative locations. And Commissioners Frank and Abbott were on that with me. Any thoughts on whether that should continue? Certainly, updating section B with amenities would be on our purview. Commissioner Abbott?
Yeah, no, I think it's very appropriate to have review the process or see that the section B amenities are completed. I think that's appropriate. As far as looking for other locations, that's very much a master plan question, because that's where we're going to take a bird's eye view and say, okay, these are the resources we have and these are the needs we have, and so now let's try to match. And so that's kind of that role, and I see that as part of the master plan.
Okay. Commissioner Frank?
Yeah, I just wanted to give an update to the new commissioners. When we did the survey about where additional dog parks could be, it was like almost perfectly even, remember? So it was like every area had sort of the same desire to have it in their area. So, but the other thing I'd say is one thing that did come up was the small dog park. We had a petition about that. And so it's just something I wanted to put on our radar to not forget about that request to have some sort of small dog park facility.
So yeah, that item, sounds like that one should be reworded to reflect the reality that we have an established dog park now, and what needs to be done with that going forward. And then also the small dog park facility, which was part of the work that we did before and wasn't completed. Okay, next up, review Albany Hill access and trail projects, including the bridge and interpretive signage. This sounds like how is this different from the item above on Albany Hill trails?
Well, I think this one includes a subcommittee for interpretive signage, but that subcommittee no longer exists. So the commission can, there's two choices here. Either the commission can decide to take that on, and the idea behind the subcommittee was to provide, do some research on interpretive signage and provide some recommendation to the city on what kind of signage, how big, what kind of material and stuff. Or you can also, the other way to go about this is that when funding becomes available, then staff comes to you with some options, and then you provide input on those options. So that that could go either way.
Okay, so it sounds like this item is focused more on the interpretive signage.
Yeah, I think that's what's left of this item. I think, everything else is completed, or, there's no specific timeline for the bridge. So again, that will come to you when there's movement in that area.
Isn't some of that a duplicate of the item above where you were telling us the bridge was the item that wasn't finished?
Yes. Yeah, your work plan has, the first part of the work plan consists of, we're based on the council strategic plan goals and objectives. But I think what the commission did afterwards is provide, and I can't see the top again, but I think it was priorities. I think we're under priorities or other work plan items, and it is a little repetitive. So you'll see that there's some repetition of items. So yeah, so that's what we've indicated sometimes in the, you'll see on the right column is C item above. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So yes, like you were saying, the two people that were on that interpretive signage are not with the commission. And so that'd be an open question as to, and we don't need a subcommittee necessarily, but is interpretive signage still a priority for the commission? And then review park signage in general and establish uniform signage program for Albany parks. And one question is, what's unfunded about that? Is that something that would want to hire a consultant for?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty extensive project, and it would require consultant assistance to move this project along. And there's no funding right now identified for this project.
Does the Parks Master Plan, I forget what you call that, but the proposal for the consultant include an item to come up with uniform signage recommendation?
No, I think it touches upon access, park access, but it won't, the consultant won't, it won't be within the scope of the master plan to come up with signage. I think it's a pretty extensive project that will require a lot of time and again, resources to do. So it would be a separate project. I mean, there may be a recommendation in the Parks Master Plan for consistent signage in the parks, but then the city would have to identify funding to be able to complete that.
To clarify, is the funding to just, I guess, take a census of what signage there is and to make recommendations on what signage should look like, or is the funding to actually print, make new signs and install them?
I think it's all of it. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Continue to support Peggy Thompson Pierce Street Park improvements. And there's there's various phases of that park, as I recall, and I forget what phase it's in, but so it seems like in principle, the next phase would be a pending thing. Can staff comment on that?
Yeah, Pierce Street Park is Albany's most underdeveloped park, so there's still some capacity for to basically promote some new activities there. Again, I think it's going to be part of the master plan update as the consultant and the commission work together to identify top activities and priorities for the community. Pierce Street Park will probably be one of the locations that will be assessed for these priorities.
Okay. Investigate relocation of the community garden. And it says report pending city staff assessment. And there was a subcommittee for that, which gave various updates. None of them are on the commission right now. And So that's something that the commission will want to consider on its work plan. Prepare mountain bike skills proposal for Caltrans, review designs and construct park. So this was one where we actually had in our work plan to build the park. And there was some pushback from Caltrans for the initial site. And so that is one of the ones that it says, specifically says there would be considered as part of the master plan update. Any discussion on this category that we've just been going through? We're just wrapping up here. Okay, next on to new work plan items. And here we prioritized. So priority 1 was support and provide input into a city master tree plan. Community development will administer the planning process in 2021. Okay. Planning process. Okay. I was kind of getting at that with the presentation we had earlier, as to, because he was saying that the staff was saying that we have John or someone going around and doing some sort of assessment of every tree, and if they're also recording other information about that, or not, and he wasn't really sure. But does staff have any input onto the timeline for this?
No, I don't have a specific timeline for this.
Standard, these, so this is a master tree plan, not a tree study. A little different, right?
Commissioner Frank, can you comment on this? I think this was one that you had championed earlier.
Yeah, I think this is not a tree study. This is a master tree plan. And it looks like the city council has approved it. Is that what that indicates, Isabel, that the community development part, so it's sort of approved by city council, and there will be potentially a consultant hired to oversee this or to lead this?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay. Yes. But I'm not quite sure if the council has approved this yet. But those would be steps that community development would take to get the plan underway. Mm-hmm.
I think the difference.
So what's our role in that?
To provide input on the draft plan when it comes to the commission.
I do have a question related to actually the comment by Nick Peterson, and I recognize that he wasn't speaking on behalf of the Climate Action Plan, but I'm familiar with that plan, and I'm wondering, there was a lot of interest actually from the public to increase green infrastructure for climate reasons and beautification, et cetera. I know City Master Tree Plan is like one part of that, and I'm just wondering, would that fall under this commission? Do you know? This, green infrastructure, is that a public work? I just don't even know which sort of advisory body would be responsible for that.
Yeah, I don't know either. I'd have to check in with community development and see.
It seemed like it might read of the first paragraph in this thing, seemed like it fell under our purview, but.
Mm-hmm. My recollection as well was that I believe this kind of came up when, as I recall, when the Marin, all that undergrounding was done and new trees were planted near San Pablo and on Marin there, and commissioners were expressing the need for like a master plan rather than just deciding each tree by each tree, like just having a general plan for trees so that to help make those kind of decisions better in a more holistic way. So it does seem to me like it's under our commission's purview, but also touches on other ones. Commissioner Beal?
I mean, what I would say on that is it depends on where the trees are. So, but it also ties into the recent renaming of this commission. So, because it's also open spaces. So the one thing I could definitely say, or pretty definitely say, is that the street trees would fall under our purview. Right? I would think they do. And that's something that a role that the commission should take up in promoting the city's street tree program.
Mhm.
Yeah, I just want to say, I don't think I'm questioning the city master tree plan should be under, or we should have some influence and, look, it's overseeing that or reviewing it, et cetera. I'm just curious about the larger green infrastructure. So I guess one of my questions would be to please look into that if you don't mind, and ask me development, because that would be something I'd be interested in including as a work plan if it's relevant to this commission's oversight.
And Commissioner Frank, what do you mean by larger green infrastructure beyond trees?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, that's a really good question. And I think we at some point, I think even talked about other native plants at parks. So not even trees, but say, for example, just planting native species, et cetera. So the green infrastructure, though, part of that is like, this is not my expertise, so sorry. But I do know that there's certain ways you can plant, you can landscape to plant. I actually feel like other commissioners are much better than me.
I could chime in if you don't mind.
Please, thank you.
Well, we could look at a lot of different ways, but you could look at it for the wildlife habitat too. So we have these creeks that are supplying a lot of wildlife, bird being the main one, and whether our tree population enhances that, helps that, or maybe we want to discourage it. There are some big places where we can plant really large trees for raptors, like Albany Hill. Probably not so much on boulevards and streets, but as was stated, native plants in larger areas, like I think some of our large medians can be more than just mowed 5 times a year. They can have a lot more value as an aesthetic improvement, but also for wildlife and for capturing rainfall and different things. So there's a lot more we can do with the space we have, both aesthetically and as kind of enhance the health of our environment, I think.
Yeah, can I chime in on that? I think another element is specifically stormwater resources, and that's often what kind of green infrastructure refers to, is more or less active stormwater infrastructure that's planted. And sorry.
Right. One more thing I want to add is a big part in the tree master plan and the tree study kind of go hand in hand, because one thing we'll find is whether the trees that we currently have on the street are going to do well with global warming in the next 20, 30 years, or whether we need to really start planting a whole new crop of trees to be ready, because at least a lot of the trees we have here are more northern inclined, and we might start to replace them with trees that are more LA based, unfortunately.
Yeah, I just wanted to make
You have your hand.
Yeah. Is someone else ahead of me? Oh.
No, you said you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I know, and I'll take it down. But the other part I was going to say is that, well, first of all, I think what Commissioner Frank is talking about in terms of green infrastructure, part of it is probably in the purview of our commission. Part of it isn't, because some of it might have to do with energy and so forth. But I just want to again reiterate how important this is right now, though, because the trees and the green, not only is it important for the environment, but also for people's mood. We've heard over and over from the community how mental illness and the mental state of mind of the community is a very important thing. So anything the commission can do to help, just put more green stuff, and even, I'll give a shout out to this effort that's going on, the COVID art, things like that. that just, help people through the parks and rec facilities, to help with this issue.
Okay. And then Commissioner Price, were you talking about like stormwater, capturing that in the soil instead of going into the street?
Right, or slowing it down before it goes into the stormwater system by capturing it in planting areas.
Okay. All right, and then next up, review and implement previous Memorial Park improvement designs, including entry, bike racks, additional seating. Says remaining improvement is lighting, which is included. So that's the last item. And that's in CIP. Should that be fall 2020 update?
Yes, I think we did a cut and paste here, and
someone got real
with the
excited
wrong
about
date, yeah, with the wrong year.
updating all the 2020s to 2021. Okay, so if staff could review all the 2021s, that would be good.
Yeah. Well, hopefully at the next meeting we'll get you a first draft work plan based on the discussion you have. So this is probably one of the last times you'll be seeing this document, because you'll start to work with on a newer document.
Okay, great. Engage the community in planning of key route boulevard median improvements. So that was actually something that was brought up by the public in this meeting earlier. And it says components included as part of complete streets. Certainly the very southern end of the key route, the broad, key route extends south of Solano, but the broad boulevard is in that complete streets, the last half block of it, but there's many more blocks north of there. So I think we should still consider it as the rest of it as something to plan for and beyond the master plan. And then establish dog parks in Albany based on subcommittee analysis. So I guess this is one of those repeats from above from the city council. The commission clarified something there, and looks like we pretty much finished that, but there's certainly lots of ongoing stuff there because hardly anything's actually been, there's still a lot more to do to actually implement the amenities. Well, and then establish dog parks. So this is also where the small dog park would be considered. Then we got convert Ocean View Park tennis courts to pickleball courts. So that went to council. I think they didn't decide on that, did they? I think at that point they were told there was going to be a parks master plan, and they were like, well, okay. So, all right. Update Parks and Recreation Master Plan, as we've heard so much about. So that's in the works. Support collaboration opportunities with nonprofit organizations on park projects and programming. One thing I did want to say for the public and for the new commissioners about the Parks Master Plan is that the language we saw going out to the consultant is that whoever wins the bid is supposed to include a number of presentations to our meeting with public input, and I believe a certain number of public workshops. Can staff confirm that?
Yes, outreach to the public is part of the was part of the master plan, and also some check-ins with the commission as well. Mm-hmm.
So that's something to look forward to in the next few months, with staff predicting in the past anyway that we could wrap the entire thing up in the fall. Next item is support collaboration opportunities with nonprofit organizations on park projects and programming. And so Eva has highlighted that as something to, do periodically. And I believe that was, could be for anything, but also we love the Bulb was in mind for that to some extent, as I recall. Pursue public bathrooms on Ohlone Greenway. And so that is, I don't know, that's been thrown out discussed every once in a while, but I don't know if it's ever been an agenda item. Is that something that is potentially in the master plan? Discussion?
I mean, it could be as a broad, I'm just guessing here, like it could be as a broad statement to increase bathroom access throughout the city. And then, the commission could work on identifying potential sites for, for public restrooms in parks specifically. This item, I think, came about a few years back, I think, when the council, there was an interest in a bathroom around on the Ohlone Greenway near Solano. I think the matter was referred to the commission, but there hasn't been any action or development on this project.
I can share a little bit about it. So what happened was we were talking about money from the sugar sweetened beverage tax and how to use some of that money. And I actually made the recommendation we could use a public restroom at Greenway would be a good location. It was pretty much decided that that wasn't an appropriate use of the sugar sweetened beverage tax money. But council did like the idea. So they did say, okay, that's a good idea, but we'll try to find the money somewhere else. I agree with Brian. I don't think this has been a agenda item for us at any point other than that original conversation.
Okay. And then we had a comment from the public to request wherever, although it sounds like their idea was to identify places for hookups for a portable system. But so that's something for us to consider, is to adding public showers to our work plan. All right, new work plan items, priority 2. Work with Urban Forester on a tree removal education campaign for homeowners. And I don't think that's ever been agendized. It seems like that's something that's better for either staff to do 100% or for a subcommittee to work with staff. Does staff have any comments on that?
I think it's an item that's pending. It just hasn't bubbled up to the, to the surface as far as a priority, given all the other projects that Public Works is involved in.
They'll come to the commission.
I don't have a specific timeline or.
And that they'll come to the commission when it is a priority, they will come to the commission for input.
Okay, Commissioner Frank.
Yeah, I just want to give an update. I think this was something that we might have even voted on before, Isabel, you were overseeing the commission, but it wasn't really expected of staff. I think it was a subcommittee thing that I was actually supposed to work on. It wasn't a priority for me at the time, but I would say that if we do keep this on the work plan, which we can vote to do or not, I would only want to edit it to not say removal, because then it sounds like we're trying to, so something like tree preservation education, something like that. So it's more clear.
Yeah, Commissioner Beal.
I'd say tree management would be a nice neutral.
Yeah,
Um,
although the real impetus for it was to try to educate the public on the value of the trees. So not just management, but tree value, you
Tree
know,
appreciation.
there you go, tree appreciation. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and it could even be tree planting education campaign. You know, it's so manage something besides removal sounds like a good suggestion. Yeah. Review previous senior center expansion project designs and investigate funding opportunities. I don't think that's ever been agendized. Maybe it has. I don't remember that ever being agendized, but it says it's included in that. Does staff have any more information about that item for us?
No, just that it's included in the CIP unfunded section. This project came out of Prop 84. We applied for a grant years back, and the senior center was the project that we applied for, but we didn't get the grant. So we still have the plans, but we haven't identified any funding for this.
Okay. Does staff have a recommendation for what? So it sounds like it's not something that the commission itself is actively pursuing,
No.
but it would come before the commission should something happen?
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
So the question would be, do we keep this as a placeholder? You know,
it's in the CIP, so it's in a public document already. So but it is in the unfunded section. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Develop monarch habitat assessment completed in June 2018. Okay.
Can I say something about this, Brian?
Yeah.
I just kind of was thinking, from what I've read recently, and this is the first I've heard that this actually was part of this commission, but that Albany Hill has one of the third largest populations of monarch butterflies in the Bay Area. And that this is an item of interest to the community. And that given again, we want to make the community more enjoyable and so forth. So I would think that somehow this should be maybe not a regular item, but it should be part of our ongoing agenda to monitor the monarch population and take input from the community about its importance.
Yeah, this particular item, I believe, was done. I remember seeing the presentations and all the city hired a consultant, and then based on their their work, it kind of laid allowed the work on the Hill to progress and be more informed as to which trees should and shouldn't be removed to put the the accessible pathway in up there, and other improvements. So it was specifically for that, but and that's completed. But I do agree it would be good to get, I know there's groups in the area or in town that do counts, and we heard from them at the presentations on the monarch habitat that do annual counts. My understanding is there were very few monarchs recently. So is staff aware of any groups, which groups do that? And if they could be brought up for annual reports, I think probably best after the counts each year.
Margot Cunningham comes at least once a year to the commission too, so we can chat with her and see what information she has, and we can either it would be a part of her report or we can have more information for you. Okay,
yeah. So yeah, if you could ask her to work that into her next report, which I think is in quite a while, but yeah. Support review designs of non-traditional parks, pocket parks, parklets, etc. None pending currently. We've certainly witnessed, there's the one parklet in front of, As You Wish, And we're seeing all these other things pop up, which are really interesting. They're more of a commercial bent for the supporting restaurants. But there's certainly lots of interesting non-traditional things going up right now that I think we should consider having some say in, although I don't remember any of this coming before the commission in the last 2 years. Any other feedback, input from, or Todd, do you have any, Commissioner
Yeah,
Abbott,
that's not really our, I mean, that's not our jurisdiction. They're just using the sidewalk temporarily. Now, Mr. Dewey's is working on a parklet akin to the one at Hal's Coffee, and that one may come before us. I'm not sure where they are in that process, but the temporary parklets, yeah, I'm not sure that that's really something that we would have a say in. That's more community developments and planning and zoning, their daily work.
Okay. So as things come up, like possibly Mr. Dewey's, convert Terrace Park, yeah.
I would say just quickly that, you know, there's a chance. I haven't heard any plans or any desires, but there might be some people who decide they like their parklet and want to make it permanent. And in that case, they'd have to go through the whole process, and the design might come before us or something. But that's the only time I could see it being relevant for us.
Okay, and that could be yeah, there could be more of those given the experiences people have already had, but we don't know. Okay, good. And convert Terrace Park, would that be older kids playground, from sand to FIBAR, and engage community in selection of a new playground feature. And it says sand removed and replaced with FIBAR, incorporate playground equipment into spring 2020 update. Should that be 2021?
I think this one is included in the CIP update also, but is also unfunded.
Okay, so it was in a prior update.
Mm-hmm.
So
no,
maybe
the spring 2020 CIP update, I think, is actually the fall 2020 CIP update. I think when we originally, this is, I think this is a remnant of my December, let me see, 2019 update to you, which at the time we thought that the CIP update would be in the spring of 2020, but it actually occurred in the spring of, in the fall of 2020 instead.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Did we already go through the whole process? I don't believe we went through the whole process of selecting a new playground feature.
I don't think so. No.
Okay, so that would be something to carry forward potentially, and then ongoing. So these are a lot of yellow here. So kind of periodic, kind of pro forma, review street tree removal applications. That's the one thing we have final say on in the city. Annual review status of AB 2404. Can staff refresh our memory on what that is?
That is the gender equity policy that was adopted. So we track who uses our facilities, our fields, youth. It's only youth. And so in the past, we've had annual reports from the Recreation Department, and we'll probably do that this spring and have updated numbers. COVID kind of put a pause on it, but we're working on compiling those and should come back to council here, or excuse me, the commission soon.
And that includes people that sign up for classes and other...
It's not classes, it's just sports. It's competitive sports. So it's mostly because the Recreation Department doesn't run its own leagues, it's mostly field users who are using Memorial and Ocean View.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And our tennis courts,
mm-hmm.
The high school students who use the tennis courts for practice and kind of competitions.
All right. Biennial review of the street tree removal policy. So now it says that's completed. So how can staff comment on that being completed, but in the ongoing category?
Spacebar wasn't working. Isabel, can I ask you to comment on this one?
Well, I'm not quite sure why it's highlighted. I think it may be, it does say biannual review. So if
Every
it's the
2
desire
years.
of the commission to review the policy, I would say biannual in this case probably means every 2 years.
Mhm.
I didn't write this work plan, so I'm not quite sure what was the intent of the commission. But every 2 years. So in a way, so the last time it was approved was in 2019. So the commission could review it again sometime in 2021 if there's a need for for review again. And I would think that that would come from your discussion with the urban forester when you're reviewing tree applications. If something comes up, that needs a review, then the commission could, request to review the policy.
It seems to me like that should be agendized, like you're saying, once every 2 years, just to run through what is the street tree removal policy, and do we feel like we need to make any changes to it?
We can ask John. I forget which one he's coming to. Maybe the April meeting, if he can include that.
Okay. All right. Receive presentation on waterfront and creek related items. And we got a presentation a few years ago, and the waterfront and creeks were added to the commission around that time. I think it'd be great to get more updates on what I think specifically for new commissioners. I think it would be good to have someone from city staff to agendize that in a meeting coming up in the next few months or the next few months to get an update on what the purview is for the commission, because it can be really confusing what parts are ours, what parts are the county's, what parts private land, and just some basic information about that. Okay, and then continue to support implementation of the Albany Hill Creekside Park Master Plan. Any discussion on that one? Okay, so the last one was 2 years ago, so it sounds like we're due for an agenda item on that soon.
You did receive a presentation by Margot in November 2020 also.
We do get presentations from her, and that includes creeks.
Yeah, it includes the creeks, it includes the Albany Hill. So it's usually it encompasses pretty much all of those 2 items here.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But she doesn't present on the waterfront, so would be something that would be good to agendize, I think. But we can talk about upcoming agenda items. Receive biannual park maintenance reports. With what the presentation we just had, would that be considered that? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Next.
We're at the end.
Oh. Okay. All right, so that's some food for thought. Particularly, it's like a fire hose for the new commissioners of all of these items and thinking about what it all means. And But maybe that sparked some other things you'd like to see the Parks Commission doing. I would propose that we brainstorm any additional items, and then just open up to discussion and then wrap up this item.
Have we had public comment on this item yet? I don't remember. We did. Okay,
Yeah.
good. So one item, if I may, I don't see people rushing to speak. One item I wanted to bring up, and I've heard from the public, and I imagine some others have as well, is concern about the way Albany Hill Park is being used, and specifically destructive use, and some way that maybe this body could. I don't know if there's any specific rules regarding how. Sorry, my dog is having an issue back there. If you can hear that, it never fails that it's fine until I speak, and then there you go. And so perhaps we could create a subcommittee or something to kind of look at that situation. I don't know if that would fall under our existing work plan or if that would need to go to council, but that was something that I felt. Concern trying to put a stop to destructive use of Albany Hill Park, and anything this committee could do the commission could do to support that.
And to clarify that, my understanding was the main concern was mountain bike use on the north part of the hill, down by the creek.
I think that's part of it. Yeah, there were a couple issues. Let me pull up the email, but yeah, that was part of it.
And but at least some of that could potentially be addressed by establishing a mountain bike park nearby. So that's one thing. Commissioner Beal.
Yeah, I'm just really wondering if it's in our purview and whether there's anything we can do about it, what the limitations are. So, but it seems like at least it would be a good idea to have a meeting on it. Give the community an opportunity to speak on it. But I'm just questioning, because it almost seems like more of a law enforcement issue. If people are, destroying the park, well, obviously they're not supposed to do that. So that's my only point about it. I'm sure it's a good idea for us to talk about it, but I'm wondering what we can actually do.
I kind of feel like if there are at least posted rules, then there's at least that, if nothing else, empowers the neighbors to say something, right? Or even if it's complaint enforced, at least there's something. But we don't seem to have the rules, or at least they're not posted. So that would be something that we could work on.
So I would second the idea of putting this on the work plan.
It seems it does relate to the bike park, because you can't just, if kids are on bikes, you can't just say go home and watch TV or play with your video game, go away. They need a place to go. So you got to give them, if you want them to be off the hill, you got to give them someplace else to go, or else you're telling them to just don't get off your bike and go back in the house, which I don't think we can really say. We could say, but I don't think it's a healthy thing to say. So I think we really need to push someplace for them to recreate. And if we don't want them to do it on the hill, we got to find them a place. Otherwise, we're just getting the police on them. That's not a way to do it either, I don't think.
Yeah, I agree with that. And to me, it seems like, certainly that would be a work plan item, like a long-term solution or a long-term thing to address the issue. But that I'm not sure it would necessarily be a good idea to add it to our work plan, but possibly agendize it for a future meeting as just part of our open space purview. Or even just, ask Public Works to put up signage. Does that we need to go through a whole commission to figure out what kind of sign to post? Can staff give feedback on that?
Well, I think the item is not on the agenda right now, so I don't want to go into detail, and
that's a
you know,
good
I would
point.
need to come back to you with research on that.
Yeah.
We need to, I would need to do research on what are the rules and what is the current signage, what is not on the current signage, and again, we're going back to signage. So so yeah, I think there's a few things to consider.
Yeah, my specific question was, do we think this falls under one of our existing work plan items, or would this be something, because I kind of feel like time is a little critical here. There's no structure going on right now. Would this be something we'd need to, you know, appeal to council to say, can we work on this, or do we think it would fall under the existing work plan item? It seems like it, you know, it might be general enough. It's clearly use of a park, so there's that. But I wondered if I could hear from staff on that. And if it doesn't have to be right now, I know it's a lot to look at. So just you know.
We have it noted as a potential future agenda item, and we can work with the chair on how the commission can best address it in the future. Mm-hmm.
Other items of discussion for the work plan.
I think I'm going to echo what Commissioner Frank said about a lot of this. Probably, it seems to me it's just a lot of items, and some of them are closely related, and some can be tucked under others, like the mention of a bench and pickleball and bocce court. It seems like that's all equipment that needs to go to park. It's almost one category, and maybe that'll all become a little clearer in my mind after the park master plan. Maybe they'll start to. Because it looks like this has all been thought out very well, so I don't really want to get in there and start pulling it apart, but it does seem like just a bunch of items we're going rather than bigger picture kind of plans we're trying to accomplish.
A couple of things I would say to that is certainly the Parks Master Plan will hopefully look at the bigger picture, and that was some of the feedback we were getting, that it would be good to look at the big picture and not just do whack-a-mole on little groups that come up and say, I want this, I want that.
Yeah, right.
And then another thing is to clarify that like pickleball and bocce are not just equipment. The bocce was to build an entire facility, but ground, whatever you call that, structure, not really a structure, but whatever it is.
Court or something, yeah, right, yeah.
Build the whole thing from scratch. And also get the area around it ready, drained and everything, and groomed, and then pickleball was also involved a capital project to redo to varying degrees. There were different proposals as to how much to redo the surfacing and the nets and all that. So it wasn't just equipment. Just to clarify that one little part of what you were saying. Okay. Other items of discussion. Commissioner Beal.
Actually, so Commissioner Kent raised this item in my mind about the seating. And I guess my question has to be, you know, how much does this get extended because of open spaces? But what I see is a need, you know, on my street, I live on a main north-south street, and I see a lot of older seniors, you know, they're out walking, you know, trying to get their exercise, but they're having a difficulty making it, you know, a whole long north-south block. And there's nowhere to sit. So that's why I'm wondering if, you know, somehow benches at other locations in the city, you know, might be something we could at least talk about, not just in parks.
Okay. All right. And okay. So if there's no other items to discuss on that, seeing no other items for discussion, the next item is item 7, future agenda items. And I think we've already tossed out for consideration some things as we've gone through the work plan. And this is an opportunity for the public and the commission to propose items to add to future agendas to discuss with each other and the public. Yes, Commissioner Armendariz.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just wanted to go back a little bit because I was unclear. Are we're done talking about the plan or no, the work plan?
Good question. I'm
just curious what the process is for.
Yeah, good question. So let's make sure we're doing that right. So it says review of commission work plan. Commission will review and discuss current work plan and begin drafting the next work plan. So we just reviewed it, we discussed it, and we, as part of the discussion, proposed changes and modifications to wording and other things to the work plan. So it looks like we did what the agenda called for. I guess we could, in principle, vote on whether to approve. You know, I don't think we really have anything to vote on necessarily. Is that maybe that's what you're getting at, or that would be another thing that the commission could potentially do would be to vote on each item or the whole thing and say this is what our work plan is that we're going to send to the city council. But I think we're not quite ready for that yet. So we're aiming to hammer it out in more details at the next meeting. So in March. So the staff has said they're going to come back with the next version of this. We'll incorporate a lot of the things we've just talked about, and they've been taking notes on. And then once we have that kind of cleaned up version, then in principle, we can then start voting on each item to include it or not and add new items. Does that answer your question?
Yes, I guess maybe my question would be for staff. Did you get all of the information that you needed? I don't know. I guess I just felt like I didn't see that we were making decisions to remove anything really. Maybe one thing.
I think at this point, staff, and I agree that there was a lot of discussion, and I think that's what these meetings usually look like because it's the start, right? So staff has enough information where we'll be able to come up with some sort of draft and work with Chair Martin too to make sure that we got everything that was said tonight and then go from there. So the hope is that next meeting, it's a little bit more linear, but it's okay not to be linear. And we'll take it from there. So yes, I think we have what we need to come up with a draft.
Commissioner Price?
So can we come back with additional sort of suggestions for additions next time and further discussion?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Commissioner Frank? And
no, I'll go ahead and let Commissioner Armendariz go first. Go ahead.
Okay, I guess maybe I should have said this earlier. I think something that would be helpful for me is to not to have so many lists, or there could be like groupings of things. So there's like the other work plans and there's the new work plans, priority 1 and 2. Is there some way to have it all fall under enhancing parks or all, in these 3 categories in the beginning? Could they somehow be merged into that? I don't know. I guess this is it still feels kind of unwieldy to me. So and I know we're still working on it. But if there's some way to organize this under parks, et cetera. Sorry.
Commissioner Frank?
Yeah, I'm not saying I have the solution, but it does seem like I'm a little wary of us coming back and going through the list again the same way. I mean, it's just a process question. I'm not sure how. I don't have a great idea for how to change that, but Commissioner Beal, maybe, I don't know, raise his hand. It seems like we might just come back and do the exact same thing again next month. That would feel not so productive. So,
Commissioner Beal?
What I'd say about this is we had a lot of discussion right now. We got to give the staff time to take that discussion and put it into a document so that we can vote on it. We don't have anything to vote on right now. And to get it to where we would have to vote on it, we'd have to spend another half hour to figure that out. And I think, you know, we're already close to the end of our allotted time.
Commissioner Frank?
Yeah, I don't know that anybody was suggesting that we vote on it. It just seems like we should be prepared for the next discussion. So we're not just going through the list again. I would suggest perhaps we've gone through the list in thorough detail, even though I'm sure for the new commissioners, they're kind of so like theoretical. I mean, all of this, right? But maybe perhaps, and to me, I feel much more relaxed about this process because we have this master plan coming up that's going to hit on almost all of these topics. I would say maybe we can focus on what we'd like to add, what we think is missing, what we'd like to add for next time, knowing that we've already vetted a lot of these. They're probably going to be, you know, rehashed in the master plan. But if there's anything missing, it'd be really good to include it in there, because then the consultant, when the consultant does look at the various options that they should consider, they'll, you know, this plan might be a guiding document for them in some ways. So that would be my suggestion for homework for us.
Something else I would add is that my understanding is, as far as trying to fold everything, certain things together in the lists and categorize things, is that the objective 1, 2, and 3 at the top of the list, I believe those are coming from the city council. Can staff confirm that? Yeah, and then some of the other things are things that and maybe I believe also well, at some point, I think the city councils are 1, 2, and 3, and then either other work plan items or new work plan items are ones that the commission itself has come up with. And so we don't usually like mix those. Like we don't really have. So another thing to discuss with staff is how much say do we have over the stuff at the top of the list, the stuff under objectives 1, 2, and 3. Is that just coming from on high and we just have to take it as is, or can we make changes to those items that the city council told us to work on?
Yeah, I think if you give staff, I think staff can do a pretty good job of you know, providing you with a pretty cleaned up version for the next meeting. As we discussed in the past, you know, a lot of these objectives were, you know, although it said, you know, a lot of the objectives were very precise and not very feasible for the commission to do. So what I'd like to do is come back to you with a rewarding of some of the recommendations, some of the initiatives, so that they're more feasible to what the commission can do. And hopefully, you know, that gives you enough of something to start your conversation, continue your conversation, and add to. And of course, you know, it will be to the desire of the commission, as you know, if you want to edit what staff has provided, and so. But at least, you know, we'll provide you with a good first draft to work from.
For next month.
For next month, yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And staff has said feel like you have what you need, so that's good. Great. Okay, so thanks for that clarifying question. And now on to agenda item 7, future agenda items. So this is where people brainstorm. Maybe you've come into the meeting already knowing something you want to talk about in a future meeting, or something got sparked from this meeting that we know we should really go over that soon. And it's not necessarily the next month. There's various, but it would be worked in the coming months. Open it up for discussion. Do we have public comment? Looks like I see no public comment. Discussion amongst the commissioners. Commissioner Frank.
I just had I was curious if there's a status update on the RFP for the master plan.
Yeah, we'll have a status update at the next meeting.
Okay.
And another item that will come to the commission at the next meeting is the development of a recommendation for sugar sweetened beverage tax proceed for next fiscal year. So the commission will be working on that at their next meeting as well.
That's our annual review of that.
Well, it's your annual recommendation of, because the council will be holding a workshop in April, and there's a few commissions who provide recommendations to the council. So if you start on your recommendation in March, you probably would have March and maybe April to provide to finalize a recommendation to council.
And that brings up, should that be in our work plan, the sugar sweetened beverage annual update?
Mm-hmm. It is written in the measure itself, so it will again no matter what, because it is written in the measure. But yes, as a reminder or for the commission to know that this comes to you on a yearly basis, you could also add that to your work plan.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. Other future agenda items? Okay, seeing none. The next item is number 8. The next meeting is Thursday, March 11th, 7 p.m. And item 9 is adjournment. Do I see a motion to adjourn? Commissioner Abbott?
I'll move that we adjourn.
A second.
Deal. Roll call.
Yeah,
We actually don't even need a motion, so we can just be done. 9:43.
Okay, well, thank you all.
Thank you.
I see.